Thinking has become a disease. Disease occurs when things lose balance. The inability to stop thinking is a terrible affliction, but we don't understand it because practically everyone suffers from the same condition, so it's considered normal. The compulsive thinker lives in a state of apparent separation, in a senselessly complex world of continuous problems and conflicts. A world that reflects the ever-increasing fragmentation of the mind. This incessant mental noise prevents you from finding the realm of inner stillness that is inseparable from being. It also creates a false self, a construct of the mind, which casts a shadow of fear and suffering. You've probably passed by crazy people on the street who talk and mutter incessantly to themselves. This isn't very different from what you and all other normal people do, except they don't do it aloud. Just as dogs enjoy gnawing on bones, the mind enjoys dwelling on problems. The mind is a magnificent tool if used correctly. However, if used incorrectly, it becomes very destructive. To be more precise, it's not so much that you misuse the mind, it's that the mind uses you. You believe that you are your mind. That's the illusion. The instrument has taken over you. Practically everyone constantly hears a voice or multiple voices in their head. This is the process of involuntary thinking, which you have the power to stop, though you may not know it. Here's the good news. You can free yourself from your mind. It's possible to end suffering and attain peace. It is the only true liberation. You can take the first step right now. Start by listening to the voice in your head as often as you can. The beginning of liberation is the realization that you are not the possessing entity, the thinker. Knowing this allows you to observe the entity. The moment you start observing the thinker, a higher level of consciousness is activated. You then begin to understand that there is a vast realm of intelligence beyond thought, and that thought is merely a small aspect of this intelligence. And then you start to awaken. The word enlightenment evokes the idea of superhuman achievement, and the ego likes to view it this way, but it is simply your natural state of felt oneness with being. It's about finding your true nature beyond name and form. I like Buddha's simple definition of enlightenment, the end of suffering. But what remains when suffering ends? Buddha remains silent on this, and his silence means that each person must discover it for themselves. When you are present, when your attention is fully and intensely in the now, being can be felt, but it can never be understood mentally. Enlightenment is reclaiming awareness of being and staying in that state. The inability to feel this connection gives rise to the illusion of separation, both from yourself and from the world around you. You then perceive yourself, consciously or unconsciously, as an isolated fragment. fear arises, and inner and outer conflict becomes the norm. Identification with the mind creates an opaque filter of concepts, labels, images, words, judgments, and definitions that block any true relation's hip. It stands between you and yourself, between you and your fellow humans, between you and nature, between you and God. This thought filter creates the illusion of separation. The illusion that there is you and a totally separate other. Then you forget the essential fact that beneath the level of physical appearances and separate forms, you are one with all that is. Being is the one life, eternal and ever-present beyond the myriad forms of life subject to birth and death. Yet being is at the same time transcendent and immanent within every form as its deepest, invisible, and indestructible essence. This means you have access to it now as your innermost self, your true nature. But don't seek to grasp it with your mind. Don't try to understand it. You can only know it when your mind is quiet. When you hear a thought, be aware not only of the thought, but also of yourself as the witness of the thought. Then a new dimension of consciousness arises. As you listen to the thought, you will feel a conscious presence, your deeper self, behind or underneath the thought. The thought then loses its power over you and quickly subsides, because you are no longer energizing the mind through identification with it. This is the beginning of the end of involuntary and compulsive thinking. Enlightenment is not only the end of suffering and perpetual inner and outer conflict, but also the end of the dreadful enslavement to incessant thinking. Many people live with a tormentor in their head that constantly attacks and punishes them and drains their life energy. It causes tremendous anguish and unhappiness, as well as disease. Pay particular attention to any repetitive thought patterns, those old scratched records that have likely been playing in your head for many years. Be there as the witnessing presence. As you listen to that voice, listen to it impartially. In other words, don't judge. This awareness of I am, this sense of your own presence, is not a thought. It arises from beyond the mind. In your daily life, you can practice this by taking any routine activity, which is normally just a means to an end, and giving it your full attention so that it becomes an end in itself. For example, whenever you climb and descend stairs at home or at work, pay close attention to every step, every movement, and even your breathing. Be fully present. There is a simple criterion to measure your success with this exercise: the degree of peace you feel inside. When a thought slows down, you feel a discontinuity in the mental stream, a gap of no mind. At first, these gaps will be brief, perhaps a few seconds, but they will gradually lengthen. When these gaps occur, you feel a certain stillness and peace within. It is the beginning of your natural state of felt oneness with being, which is usually obscured by the mind. With practice, the sense of stillness and peace will deepen. Indeed, its depth is endless. You will also feel a subtle emanation of joy arising from deep within you, the joy of being. Going further, you can create a gap in the mind stream, simply by directing the center of your attention to the now. Just be intensely aware of the present moment. It is something you do with great satisfaction. In this way, you draw consciousness away from mental activity and create a gap of no mind in which you remain highly alert and aware, but do not think. This is the essence of meditation. This presence is the essence of who you are, yet it is inconceivably greater than you. In this state of interconnectedness, you are much more alert, much more awake than in the state of identification with the mind. You are fully present. Whenever you create a gap in the mind stream, the light of your consciousness grows stronger. As you move deeper into this realm of no mind, you enter the state of pure consciousness. In this state, you feel your own presence with such intensity and such joy that, in comparison, all thinking, all emotions, your physical body, as well as the entire external world, become relatively insignificant. This means you no longer take the content of your mind so seriously, as your sense of identity no longer depends on it. One day, you may find yourself smiling at the voice in your head, as you would smile at a child's antics. The most vital step on your journey toward enlightenment is this: learn to disidentify from your mind.